Hello everybody, this is Scapegoat Stephen. I'm back with a video battle report. This is the first one I was able to get the right combination of audio, visual, etc, etc ideas. So, to give you an idea, it's engineers versus masons. This is after the draft, so Damon fielded everyone except Hoist in his 12 for the engineers, and for masons I actually took Snakeskin as a union option, and I dropped Mallet, Tower and Lucky as my three. So as you can see, that's a brilliant scatter, perfect for the engineers, from Locus, who did the kickoff. So from the top to the bottom on the mason side, we've got Snakeskin, Granite, Chisel, then you've got Honor and Wrecker, and then Flint at the bottom just by this barrier. So going from the top of the engineers down, you have Mainspring, then you have whatever his name is, Salvo, that guy who never appeared previously, then Locus, then you have Ratchet, then Pinvice, and then Velocity. So as you can see, I've had Flint come around the corner, he's sprinted, dodged, and then passed the ball to Wrecker, and then I've passed the turn. A really simple run from Mainspring, and Wrecker is now moving on the line, just pushing a couple of people forward. And then he's just dropped the ball to Granite. Now Salvo's having a think here about does he want to take a pot shot at Granite, until I point out that she's got Sturdy, so Damon thinks better of that. He's looking at, can he get a Ratchet blast earth on a couple of my players, again just out of range, and in the end decides to go with just a sprint and a dodge for Velocity over the fast ground. Oh sorry, a sprint and a nimble even from Velocity. So I just do a pass with Granite to Snakeskin, bank some momentum, and then jog her on up. Salvo considers whether or not he wants to take a pop at Chisel. As you can see, I've put 3 on Flint, 4 on Honor, 3 on Chisel, 1 on Granite, 2 on Snakeskin, whereas Damon has put 2 on Salvo, 4 on Locus, 2 on Ratchet, I think that is, or 3 on Ratchet, 2 on Pinvice, 2 on Velocity. So in the end he just goes with a run from Pinvice. I was just checking out what's Colossus's threat range, what do I want to do. In the end I just decide to pass the ball to Granite with Snakeskin, again just to bank some momentum. Then Snakeskin will go for a jog and put Nimble up on herself. Look again at, can Locus get there? And obviously not. Again Salvo's eyeing up, can he pop a shot in at Chisel? Obviously knowing that he can't knock down Granite at range, but you can see that obviously Chisel hasn't yet activated. So in the end he just goes for, he thinks about Granite and we just basically decide against it. Has a look for, can Ratchet get there? Again, no. All this obviously from my part is delaying time. Obviously I know the engineers have got really good kick stats, you're looking like 4-6 from a lot of them. So in the end he just decides to whack a bunch of stuff on Locus and put some fast ground in front of Honor to stop her going anywhere. But that doesn't particularly hamper my plans at this stage, because all I'm planning on doing is using superior strategy from Honor onto Chisel. The aim there being actually Chisel just generates a ton of momentum sort of during this turn. But in the end actually instead I decide to activate Chisel. So he comes in with Salvo and Flawed Bolts her. So it does a couple of damage, knocks her down. Over goes Honor. Honor superior strategies her, gives her obviously that +1 influence. And then he's pretty much just left with Locus, who's a little bit out in the sticks. He can't charge anyone, although he has got that ranged attack character play that he can make. So he's going to move forward and use that and try and push me away. of destructive impulse, that was it. So then he's pushed Chisel out of any sort of direct charge. So obviously I've got a few momentum at this stage, so I spend one just to stand Chisel up in her second activation with superior strategy. I sprint to Mainspring, making sure I stay out of Mainspring's 1-inch melee. Normally attack 6, I'm down to attack 5 because of the cover. So I Iron Fist myself and buy a bunch of attacks into Mainspring, leaving Mainspring on 1. Me on 3 momentum, Damon on no momentum. So then here, obviously I know all I need to do is win by 5 minimum to then trigger basically an immediate activation again from me. So I win initiative. Apologies, what I have realised is we didn't actually take record of what the cards were, so I'm afraid I won't be able to necessarily give away which cards it was that are shown, but I can talk through who wins initiative and who doesn't. So as you can see, I've got 4 on Honour, 4 on Chisel, 3 on Snakeskin, 1 on Granite, none on Flint, none on Wrecker. So I activate Chisel first. She just hits Mainspring once, destroys him, does 3 damage to herself and to Salvo. Then walks forward, buys a few attacks into Salvo with Iron Fist up, and obviously Revelry is now up, so she's now a 3-3 in cover. Now she has taken a little bit of damage. She's taken 4 damage from sort of ranged attacks from the engineers and 3 damage from that explosion. I've then healed her using 1 momentum, so healed her back by 4. But it still leaves her a little bit dangerous. What I'm hoping is that 3-3 and that cover will actually look to keep her going and keep her alive. So obviously Damon's again looking at how do I get that ball off sort of Granite? How do I not just lose Salvo at this stage? Does someone like Snakeskin coming in? Instead he goes for Ratchet to drop a Blast Earth, because it'll do a bit of damage and obviously it will cause me to be in the rough ground. So he manages to hit on and Snakeskin at that stage. So I believe Honor has just activated and she's used her legendary for +1 influence. So she's given that to pretty much everyone around there. And then she has then spent all 4 to put superior strategy on Granite. So Granite's now gone from 1 influence to 3. Snakeskin's on 4. And everyone's favourite Armadillo, Wrecker, is on 1. Pinvice just goes for a bit of a jog around there. Although I think she's just put Deletion up on Locus. So Deletion is one of her character plays that will basically give him +1 damage on playbook damage results. Granite tries to pass. This is where my plan goes a little bit awry. Granite passes the ball to Chisel, the intention being to dodge Chisel back round behind that obstruction, just to prevent any issues with Locus getting to her. Instead, I fluff the pass. The ball scatters directly on top of everyone's favourite Salvo, and he then uses his attack to make a shot on Chisel. Knocks her down, does 2 more damage. So I trigger Granite between a rock and move her forward 4. Damon's then asking what's Snakeskin's threat range, because obviously she has a dodge and she's quite fast on the charge. So she's got, I think it was a 15-inch total threat. And then he'll pass the ball over to Pinvice. Obviously again, because Snakeskin's starting in the rough ground, she's not actually a bit slower than she would be otherwise. So obviously at the moment, Pinvice has got no influence on her. I haven't really got anyone that can get to her. So instead I send Snakeskin in on Locus, basically to slow him down so he doesn't go after Chisel. The theory there being that Snakeskin should be able to effectively do a bit of damage. Again, you've got that poison. She will probably get taken out in return. And that's, you know, Locus does have an early knockdown now, and he's got tooled up and deletion on him at the moment, and he's got a free charge as well, I believe. So what Damon's doing now is Locus punches and pushes Snakeskin away, and then we'll charge her. He's got that free charge from Ratchet. So that is one of Ratchet's abilities. It's actually his heroic play called Overclocked. Choose a friendly mechanical model within 4 inches. During its next activation, the chosen model may sprint or charge without spending influence. So quite predictably, he just makes an absolute mess and takes out Snakeskin. So that currently puts me on 1 and Damon on 2 points. So Granite's now going to charge into Salvo. The intention here being to actually just get Salvo down low enough on health that he's not an issue for the following turn. So Velocity just goes and bases Flint. Wrecker goes for a bit of a run with his 1 influence, and he removes conditions from Chisel. Now I considered healing her at this stage, but I thought it'd be best to leave her with sort of those conditions off. So Damon's just seeing, can he get a snapshot goal from Velocity at this stage, because he knows that Pinvice needs to actually do some damage or some sort of momentum first. Obviously he's then got her set up for later in the turn, just for taking those shots on goal should he need it. Obviously she is engaged by Flint, but that's not so much of a problem for the engineers if they don't need it to be. So there's a bit of discussion at the moment over whether or not I want to take initiative. Oh no, sorry, I didn't win the initiative there because Damon managed to do so much hitting on Snakeskin. So actually Damon has chosen to go first. Obviously you can see that you've got Flint down there. If Pinvice comes into Flint, he's not going to get his charm mail or anything like that. So with that Snakeskin running on them from the edge of that board, I remember I played at this point the +2/+2 move if you come back on the board. So I actually put 4 on her, just to put her as a bit of a threatening potential counter, like goal scoring. You've got 2 on Granite and 3 on Honour and 4 on Chisel. So in goes Pinvice. I elect not to defensive stance, and looking at Damon's dice roll, I think I chose the right option there. So I haven't defensive stance, I haven't counter attacked. She's gone in, has actually done quite a bit of damage to Flint, and then her follow-up attacks, just again generating some momentum. But his final attack, he actually gets no successes on, so he was intending to dodge out of engagement, but that didn't happen. So at this stage, he takes a shot with Pinvice, and he actually misses. So the ball scatters towards my right-hand flank. As you can see, the only model anywhere nearby to that is Locus. Everyone else is quite a distance away. Honour is probably the next closest. Well, is the closest model, but I don't think at this stage she hasn't got a long enough kick stat for me to be able to get anywhere. So what I decide to do is just move Wrecker a bit. So what he's going to do is he's going to roll there, and they get pulled into melee by Locus. And that was basically to stop him going after the ball and provide me with a gang up for later in the turn. So Damon's just considering his options at the moment, and he thinks actually going and dropping some Blast Earth on Honour, do a little bit of damage, and again that rough terrain, just to slow her down a bit, just to make it even more difficult for me to get the ball away with her. So I'm now looking at, can Snakeskin get to Ratchet? And the answer is, between her +2/+2 move from the game plan deck, She can buy a 4-inch dodge. The answer is yes. Yes, she can, as long as she glides over that scenery. So then I'm actually looking at what order of activation do I want to go in. Do I want to go with her first, or do I want to go with Granite, or do I want to go with Chisel? In the end, I actually do go for Snakeskin. So she dodges and charges. Does a little bit of damage. Gets that poison off. That's, again, probably quite an important one at this stage. And then buys another attack. I think just does another 1 damage. So at the moment... Oh no, it does a momentous dodge, sorry, because I wanted the momentum. So at the moment, Salvo is sat on about 7 HP. He's going to take 3 damage from conditions unless the conditions get cleared. And as you can see, I've got Chisel waiting in the wings and Granite. So he decides in the end to activate Salvo. Salvo tries to walk out of melee with Granite, but then gets knocked down by Granite. Again, I think he was trying to get away from Chisel. So Granite moves slightly forward so that when she gets pulled into like 1-inch melee with Locus, she's still got the 2-inch range on Salvo. She puts out Gut and String, and again another momentous point of damage. So now Locus is going to go. Locus is just going to try and knock down as many people as he can. Obviously that knockdown doesn't work on Granite. She shrugs the first one. He then hits her again and does knock her down. And then does a little bit of damage to her. So Chisel charges in such a way that she gets dragged back towards Locus, but Granite's base is in the way, and she still manages to then have she is engaged by Locus, so she's at 1 less die, but she manages to get a momentous dodge off that first hit, so then dodges out of melee with Locus and into soul melee with Salvo. I'll then buy a few more attacks. I put Salvo on 4 HP now, with the intention being that he'll take the 3 condition damage and then be on 1 HP and knocked down for the start of the next turn. So generate a bunch of momentum, use it to stand up. Remember now, sorry, Wrecker is knocked down by Locus. I use that momentum to stand up Granite, so that I've now got this horrible little death ball going on myself with Snakeskin and Chisel and Granite and Wrecker. So Mainspring moves. Honor is going to go for a... At the moment we're on 2-2 for momentum. So I'm trying to figure out... I need to win the momentum race. That needs to happen. I know I've got a 7 card in my hand, but I don't know what Damon has. So I'm going to run. So I'm going to sprint, even though with the rough ground slowing me down, snap the ball and pass to Wrecker. Now I generate another point of momentum at that stage. So I've now got 1 more momentum than Damon. So I'm going to play Lone Striker. So it does reduce the attack of my first model by 1. That's an important thing to remember. In the end I put 3 on Wrecker because I'm debating whether or not to do a weird Wrecker goal run, because he can go round, nudge Salvo for 1 damage, take him out, because Salvo is now knocked down on 1 health, and I've got 3 crowd outs there. And it would also move Locus a little bit. However, I decided against this because I think it's actually a dangerous plan for the snapback goal, which I don't want to see. So we talk about it for a little bit, and in the end decide, no, we won't do that. I've got bigger fish to fry. And actually Granite goes first, so it's worth noting I've got singled out on Locus, and there is singled out on Chisel as well. So Granite buys a couple of attacks into Locus, we gut and string him and knock him down. So he's now essentially a defense 1, armor 2. And And Granite then thinks about... So she buys another attack, pushes him, steps a little bit, and then buys another attack and does the Broken Earth character play off it, just to make it even more difficult for Pinvice to come in and take the ball. So again, it is still worth noting it is only 2-1. Oh, sorry, it's now 4-2, sorry, to me, because I've just got that 3-2 even, because I've just got that second take out. Whilst Damon is still at only having taken Snakeskin out, there isn't any... There is a worry of a goal here. Obviously, you've got Pinvice. Pinvice is a very good goal-scoring captain, so she smacks Flint a couple of times just to get some dodges. And then she charges into Wrecker. It's worth noting I completely and utterly forgot about singled out on Locus when I was attacking with Granite. Again, my fault. I need to be a bit more... I need to pay a bit more attention to these sort of things. There's even a token there. I've just got so many crowd outs I completely forgot about it. So, unfortunately, Pinvice does go in. She manages to dodge out the way so that even me taking a walk with a jog with Granite because of between a rock means that I'm not going to get there to engage her. So she takes a shot and Damon fluffs another shot on goal. But this was with a snapshot with velocity, so he had shot the ball off over there and didn't work. So as you can see, the ball pretty much scattered back to almost exactly where it was after that previous failed shot as well. So just wailing on Locus here with Chisel, generating a bunch of momentum. I think every single attack essentially was doing momentous 2, but I've got Iron Fist up, so it takes me up to 3, back down to 2 because Locus has Tough Hide. So again, it was just take 8 damage. I'm going to have 4 momentum out of it. And then I think she healed as well. I think I might have taken a bit more momentum because I might have wrapped 1 or 2 times. She didn't move, so she didn't get pulled into melee with Locus. Now Locus has decided he's going to go after her. At the moment, though, he's crowded out quite a bit by sort of the 2 other models, especially because of Granite having... Essentially, she provides 2 crowd outs when she is crowding people out. So she's got something called Gut and String, sorry, that's one of her character plays, called Close Ranks. So the enemy suffers an additional -1 dice pool. So basically all that Locus manages to do is knock Chisel down and deal a little bit of damage. Again, I think it takes about half her health off, but because I've healed, she's actually still sitting pretty. So I send Wrecker in with his 3, and he knocks Locus down. I remember that I have singled out on him this time. Knocks down Locus, does pretty much just generates momentum. I think does 1 point of non-momentous damage as well, and stands Chisel back up again. So Ratchet goes after Honor. Honor defensive stances and counter attacks. She gets the double dodge off the counter attack and then jogs away with the ball. Well, sorry, no, she doesn't off the counter attack. She buys an attack because she activates next, gets a double dodge, takes a point of momentum, then jogs off with the ball into cover. Velocity comes running over. Again, should be noted, I completely and utterly forgot to take a parting blow with Flint at this stage. And then I just jog Snakeskin into melee with Locus because of all the crowd outs. So it's also worth noting that I scored a point on the clock when Velocity moved, because Damon had started to bleed points on the clock. Because we are playing with the clock. What I've realised is we've left it out of camera shot because I wanted to get as close to the pitch as possible. Damon does, however, win initiative. So when he charges into Honor, I declare her poised counter-attack, and she chooses to defensive stance, so she's now a 4-2 in cover. Damon rolls abysmally, and Honor counter-attacks and does 1 damage and double dodges away. So then he has to buy a dodge to get in close with Velocity. Velocity attacks me, tackles the ball. So I then activate Honor. Honor tackles her back. Honor then buys a 2-inch dodge. Or sorry, no, hits her again and dodges. Does 1 momentous damage and a double dodge. So I get 2 momentum. She then runs round the back of that piece of scenery, so she's miles away from any of the Engineers players being able to get to her. At that stage, I believe Locus went just to stand up, and then Chisel just beat Locus to death. Iron Fisted Revelry walked into that cover, and I think did a couple more damage to Ratchet. Salvo's looking about where he can come. And again, as I said before, all the time, Damon's starting to bleed points on the clock every time he does an activation. So Snakeskin's going to go into Salvo. Salvo declares a counter-attack. But she basically generates a point of momentum and dodges away. Wrecker is just going to go base Mainspring, again just for a crowd up bonus. And as you can see now, we've got the stopwatch starting to come into play for the both of us, sort of quite visibly on the screen. So we are getting very close to the end game. Obviously I'm out on the side on my own with Honor with the ball. I'm in a reasonably commanding position now that I've gotten rid of Locus. So Granite's going to come in, she's going to smack Mainspring a couple of times, push Mainspring out of melee with everyone, and then destroy him, so that the only people that are within 3 inches are going to be Wrecker. Oh no, sorry. Spoilers for a later turn. She just knocked him down again, generated some momentum. So then Salvo's trying to figure out what can Salvo do to actually do some damage, and possibly get some sort of takeout. So again, there's a lot of just jockeying around there for position, a lot of just movement in general rather than sort of any real takeouts. Oh, I apologise, sorry, no, Granite did take out Mainspring, it's just that we've got to remove the model immediately. So at this stage, I need some momentum and then to score a goal. I'm on 9 points, again due to some 3 clock points I've scored from Damon. So Flint's going to come on and sit in the cover over there because he's less likely to die to Velocity than he is to Ratchet and Pinvice. Honor's got the ball over there. I've put 6 on her. She's not going to need it. I win initiative. I activate Snakeskin. Snakeskin goes in, generates a point of momentum, pushes Salvo out of melee with her so that he doesn't get a counter-attack. She then dodges back in using where they go, buys another attack. So she's now on 2. I've now generated 2 momentum. Pinvice is going to go into Chisel. Pinvice does Pinvice things, you know, she deals a ton of damage. She knocks down Chisel. It doesn't matter, you know, what I've got up on her. I try to get close ranks off with Granite, but then she still manages to dodge away from me, and she takes out Chisel. So Honor sprints, takes a shot on goal, scores. So that ends us with a 14-7 victory for the Masons against the Engineers.